Adventures from Military coming at you from 15 Perry Street. It's Robert Gowan. I'm joined by sidekick Jason.
Hey, thank you.
Jason, as you know, has been on the podcast a couple of times. Jason Belford, you can go back and listen to a couple of his episodes and check that out and everything. And Felipe is joining us again.
Yeah.
Welcome back to the Adventures from Military podcast. So,
thank you.
Felipe came on. For those of you who are looking back, it'll probably be, by the time you listen to this thing, about 5-6 episodes back. You can find him. And that was, I think, labeled as part 1 because we already knew we were going to do a part 2 before you even left the building. And primarily is to get in the topic that we're going to go into now. But if you go back there and look at his episode, you'll learn a lot about the early parts of his career that we didn't get a chance to go into the second phase of that. And we got into some really deep discussion there, but it was all good talk.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I really enjoyed it. Very thankful for the opportunity.
Yeah, man. Glad to have you back in here. And it's going to be a little bit different, which is kind of cool too, because it was Paul that was sitting here, and so we ended up going a lot into the mental health and those types of things. But one of the things that we wanted to touch down on that we didn't get a chance to the last time was you being part of the recon. And so I want to talk about you were at 2nd Battalion, 75th Ranger Regiment. And what was it that kind of started that transition, or how did you start learning more about those opportunities and that made you want to go that route?
So, unbeknownst to me, 2005, 2nd Ranger Battalion, we were involved with Operation Red Wings. That was...
Oh, that's the other thing we wanted to get down and talk about. So keep going.
So it actually ties in quite well. A lot of people were involved in that operation. I still don't even know who all was involved because there were so many people there. I just had a guy randomly send me a message on Instagram, "Hey man, can you sign this print?" And it's of Luttrell and the rest of the guys that were, the Navy guys that were there. And I've never heard of this guy before. I have seen some signatures of like Brian Gargano on there and everything. But anyways, so we're up there. We make it in.
Now, were you doing just the outer perimeter, or what was it that you guys were doing?
So, I guess I can tell the story of when it happened, if that's okay.
Yeah,
like basically
I'd love to know everything.
I mean, the feeling, because
they made a movie.
What's that?
They made a movie.
Yeah, but it didn't focus on you guys. That's the thing, though.
Right, but at the end, you can see that, and it shows that it is.
Yeah, and so for me being a PFC, and I didn't know anything about the military, so I'm just doing what, Corporal Torres, love you, Lando. I just do what he says because he's the smart guy. He's the leader in the room. He's the guy up front, like, you and I were talking about just a minute ago about being the first sergeant. You're out front leading your men, and that's the way Orlando was. And so he's like, I was the Carl Gustav gunner. I got lucked out with that one. So that was my first. Oh, yeah. I do. But here's the thing, though. I love that thing. That is probably one of my most favorite weapon systems.
You're not a very large guy, and that's a big, heavy weapon, and I'm sure you love jumping that thing.
Exactly. When my friend Jeremiah Congdon decided to put me out at Moses Lake on that giant runway out there in Washington, and I jumped out the left door. So I took all the prop blasts right to the Carl Gustav, and I don't even know what happened. I did flips and whatnot. I thought I was skydiving, having fun. No, it was brutal. But anyways, so we go out to the range, East River Range. I'm just going to go shoot, do some marksmanship training. It was a pretty slow deployment so far. We had gone on one mission. I sat out on that one. Our guys went on, kind of uneventful, nothing crazy going on. So we're at probably the end of June, I believe. And so we're at East River Range, and I'm in the gunner's hatch and then we get a call, hey, we got to, go back to Bagram. I'm like, all right, whatever. I don't know what's going on. So everybody's running around, their heads are like chickens with their heads cut off and everything. So we get ready. Hey, we don't even know what we're really doing other than we know that there's a helicopter down and there's, people dead. And so, as a private, you don't really know what's going on anyways.
Are you guys being QRF or?
Yeah, pretty much. Okay. I mean, that was like, we got the call because we were, one of the two platoons that was down there. And so there was 3 Charlie as well in country. And so we immediately get all of our stuff ready. We're like, hey, we're going to be in and out maybe 12 hours. So we pack light, we drop 1 plate, we bring, I still have 4 rounds with my Carl G. I got a 9mm. That was it. So we end up going to JBAD. We spin up, get in the birds with 160th, go to JBAD. We end up stopping there. There was weather or something, whatever it was that they wanted us to, rest overnight. And it was like in a jail or something. I don't know. It was really weird. It's 2005, so JBAD wasn't built up yet. So this was kind of a surreal moment in my life. I'm like, this is what I wanted. And it's like, do I really want this right now? But you do, because it's something so new, and you're just like, yeah, this is the coolest thing in the world. So we stayed the night there, and then we go out. We had 2 ships, so two 47s, and then unfortunately, where the aircraft had gone down, we were about 800 meters or so away, and they're trying to put us in on basically the top of a mountain. So we have guys, pushing out the rope, and it's about a 90-foot rope, and it's just dangling there. And so we're stressing out a little bit, considering we're at a combat load. And the night before, 2 nights before, one of these had been shot out of the sky doing this exact same thing. So yeah, a little nervous. But fortunately for us, nobody, we weren't shot or anything. No contact on infill. Had one of our combo guys break his arm. Guy landed on him. Guys rolling down the hill. I started rolling down the hill as soon as I got on the ground. But yeah, it was pretty brutal. I still have the gloves, but instead of having a left and a right, I ended up having 2 left-handed gloves. And I didn't realize it until about, the time hack where they're like, hey, put your gloves on. So I'm, all happy, like, yeah, we're going to fast rope. Cool. And I'm like, oh, crap. I'm like, this is not good. So I put that bitch on backwards and just all the strength I could muster with that thing and just hold on just as tight as I could to where I didn't die and fall down that rope. But so that was kind of funny. But so our job, I was in weapon squad. And so for us, it was more of we're, setting up the cordon. Like, we're going to set up the perimeter, have blocking positions, all that stuff. Basically just set up security. The first night was incredibly cold because we're at 10,000 plus feet, and none of us had any snivel gear whatsoever. Most of us didn't even have a shirt on. We just had our top because it was so hot. And we were only going to be there for 12 hours. So we're smart Rangers, right? 14 days later, I get on a 47 to leave that place. Yeah. So, but it was fun. No, it was something that, will forever be in my brain because it was my first mission in the Army. And it was, like you said, they made a movie about it. My buddy Tony Brooks, 275 guy, he actually recovered the bodies on the aircraft from the Navy guys and the 160th guys, the ones that went down there. So, and thankfully I didn't have to deal with that. Obviously I would have had that, been there. But we were just basically setting up security for them to recover all the personnel, the bodies, personal belongings, and all that stuff to exfil that out of there. And then pretty much for me, we sat there. We sat at that saddle for, I think it was 12 or right at 2 weeks. And so we'd have, people coming up. We'd have A-10s and whatnot fly by. And I'm looking at this guy, and he's like giving us a thumbs up. I mean, this dude's close.
Those are awesome, man.
I mean, they just it was big show of force type deal because especially at night, we had a lot of Taliban and whatnot come up. And so thankfully we had pretty much every air asset in country at that point because it was all hands on deck considering we had just lost several U.S. service members, and we have one on the run trying to E&R. And so we got a Air Force guy. It was his last deployment, actually. And I'm like, damn, you drew the short straw on this one, bro. But no, very solid dude. He was I think he was a CCT, actually. And so we're in our little position where we built a little shanty with my squad and everything at our position.
Inferno.
Yeah, it was actually kind of nice. It was pretty nice. I'll have to send you the picture, Robert. It's a pretty nice little shack there. And but no, we would always get the calls from. We would hear what's air assets are coming in and all that, and then we would also hear the status of Marcus Luttrell because he would ping on his embedder, his radio, and it would actually give it a grid, which we were very thankful for because that is a very, like, not everybody does that on their radios, and we were so thankful that they did that. And so, but yeah, I mean, it was for us, it was not as eventful as the guys that were all, looking for these guys. And then we're going to finally circle back to your question, Robert. So I'm sitting up there with my Carl Gustav. It's during the day. We're just kind of hanging out, just watching our sectors and doing things like that, rotating guard and just trying to stay fresh and everything. And I see what looked like Jesus himself walking up. It would be John Cella. who later would become my first sergeant, unbeknownst to me. But he looks like Jesus because his hair is even longer than mine is right now, and he's got this big burly beard, and he's carrying this like, early 90s rack with all these saw pouches, drums in there, and he's got a saw 46 that's suppressed, and I'm like, what is going on right now? And then somebody's like, yeah, those are the RRD guys, and I'm like, what? So that right there is kind of what started it, because there was a couple of them in RRD, RRC that were there that walked up the mountain actually, and one of the guys that walked up that mountain with RRD, he and I later were in RRC together, which is very ironic because I didn't even know who he was, and we're still great friends today. So that's really where it started. That was kind of like what scratched the surface, and then I started asking more questions because one of the guys that walked by me was John Green. John Green was my RIP cadre, and he put the fear of God in all of us because he was absolutely psychotic, like just unreal psychotic. And
that was my Shanneman. God rest his soul. I love Shannon, but he was, man.
You get that little shudder when you see him, and I'm like, this guy's gonna know who I am. He's gonna know it. Man, he doesn't know who you are. He doesn't give two crap. Like, he doesn't give two shits who you are. And I was just like trying to hide my face and what. And I even saw him at the PX, and I walked by him just to see if he would say anything. And I mean, he's in civilian clothes or whatever, but so that just seeing that guy as my RIP cadre, and now I see him as this RRD recce guy. And I'm very comfortable in the woods. Like I think that's kind of what I gravitated towards. I love the line company stuff, kicking doors, doing all that stuff. But I started gravitating towards the recce stuff for whatever reason. I wanted to punish myself more. Hey, I want to carry more weight and go for longer distances. Sounds like a great plan there. So, but yeah, I mean that was pretty much where it started. And then throughout the training cycles and whatnot, we would have like little glimpses of them work with RD back then. And then we had some guys that went to selection and whatnot, and they'd come back and they'd tell us about it and everything. Of course, we knew about Delta Force selection. And so I was like, well, let me try this. I'm young. I think maybe as far as maturity wise, I'm still kind of immature. Maybe I can make it here and then build my maturity, learn, grow a little bit in the special operations community, and later on, apply for Delta Force to go be, an operator over there. So that was kind of like the plan after a while. And so, of course, none of it went to plan other than I did go to RRC. But
well, so how is it that they typically feed that pipeline then? I mean, is it through like a 4187 type of thing, where you turn in a request for going through the selection, or,
so
or you handpick, cherry pick?
So
It'd be a bit of both in some direction.
So circa 2008, because that's when I went to selection, I found out about it through a team leader in my squad, and he's like, hey, hit this email, contact this person at this email, and then they'll start sending you applications. So that you have to, pass the application screening process first, and you have to have, they said, hey, we want at least you have to be Ranger qualified, or else you can't even apply. And so, which made sense because they have senior NCOs there, and in regiment, as a senior NCO, you're going to have your Ranger tab, so especially as an infantryman. And so, I was just starting out with that process of just doing hey, I met the minimum requirements. And so, I'm a little young. I had already done my team leader time. So then we're going to, use some of that leadership experience in that block. Hey, do you have leadership experience? So, and they're like, yeah, come on out. So it was basically, and your leadership signs off on it and everything. And mine, thankfully, was really cool about it. They were, all for it, and which I was very happy about, because usually we hear horror stories where that's not the case. Like, actually, a buddy of mine, while we were in selection, he was my borderman for our platoon overseas, and we've already gone on several deployments and everything together. And he's a solid guy. Like, I've seen this dude hump for days and days and days with rounds, the tube, everything. Like, this dude's solid. He's a solid Ranger. I think he has asthma, or had asthma, or had something. Like, we go up to Dahlonega from Washington State, and it was like he was sucking. I was sucking. Like, the air just kills you. And when he got back, he didn't pass the 5-mile run for whatever reason, asthma or whatever it was, shortness of breath. You could hear the wheezing. And he gets back, and he just gets crucified, like just absolutely crucified. They make him do Ranger standards, all this other stuff, and then go to the doctor. I'm like, he just tried to do something better for himself, and so
that's because he failed a standard in there. If it would have been another or something else, he probably would have gotten as ridiculed.
Yeah. Well, but in my thing is like, to me, it's almost subjective. I know we're supposed to trust another senior NCO to grade someone. And when I was cadre at selection, I did not ever grade unfair. Mm-hmm. I actually kind of graded, I tried to be strict just right down the line. But I mean, if it's pretty darn close, I'm probably going to give it to you.
It should be unsubjective because it is a go or no go type thing.
And for him, that's the 5 mile run. It's go or no go. And I'd worked out with this guy and everything, and it's completely solid. We'd run a 36, 37 5 mile with ease in Washington. We get down there, and it was like, I'll be honest. I ran a 39-minute 5 mile there at Dahlonega at 5th RTB.
Boy,
I was
close.
Die. Oh yeah, I was dying, but I mean,
that's a hard trail too.
It is because you're running the keyhole. That's stupid.
That sucks.
It's miserable. But so it was really through the paper process back then. Now it's a little bit more. They've switched back and forth. Used to it was only Rangers, only guys within Ranger Regiment, and then they opened it up to Army wide. If if you're a E5, E4, whatever, and you have your Ranger tab and you meet the minimum requirements, then you can put in an application, and then they'll review the application. They may send you an abridged psych eval just to kind of get a baseline to see, hey, we want this guy. So you bring him out for selection, and then Sergeant Major Bishop, he changed it from where it was selection only, and then to basically be in like, there is no selection. And so that rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. So guys would get picked, like Jason was saying, meet the minimum requirements. Hey, this guy, here's my guy. He's a stud. And then you show up and you still have all the same standards. You just don't have that land navigation, the selection portion. They still go to that portion.
They were sending them to like the RAS too, for like senior NCOs and first sergeants to go through and the officers. So the thing with that is if you go through RAS 2 and you pass and you're selected, then you're now in the regiment. However, so what that does is that cuts them off from like when there is a selection portion, you're just TDY. So if you go and fail selection,
you get to go back to
whatever, then you just cut loose. But once you pass so you see what I'm saying? So they reshaped that model recently, last 2 or 3 years. So that doesn't do anymore. They have it back almost the way it used to be. But the problem was we were getting dudes, that were selecting, but they would like go and fail land nav, and then you had to find a job for that guy because now he's yours and you own him. So they redid the model and made it to where it's like still I can cut you off.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's kind of odd that there for a period of time, and I guess now it's reverted back to you have to be part of regiment, or you can come in from the outside.
You can come in from the outside now, as long as you meet the minimum requirements. Like if you're at E7, like you have to have a certain amount of like time left before you're going to be promotable to E8. Same for E6, Ranger tab, 100%, that type of stuff. But once you meet the minimum requirements, you can come from. They send invitations out.
It's just kind of weird that your entry into regiment was much the same way. You're an implant, you come in and everything. But to go into this unit, which I would assume to be just a little bit different, that, you got to pay your dues first, there's a ladder here. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't sound like there is a ladder.
Well, there is, but the thing with it, and he can tell you this is, what the RC guys, what they do is you have to have a passion for that, like he says. Like it's a different thing, I can't say a lot of things, but it's a different set of skills, if you will. And that has to be like your passion, something you want to do different and better. So.
Yeah, and for me, one of the other things, not just the reconnaissance element or being in the woods type environment, unbeknownst to me at the time, we were going to do more urban reconnaissance and surveillance type things than being in the woods. The woods portion was basically reserved for, maybe a special training event like NTC or something like that, or for MLAT, airfield seizures. That was our thing. We would jump in at least 4 days prior. We have usually call it 100-hour recce. So, you jump in, you got you brief the battalion commander, whatever battalion you're supporting. Generally, it was 175, and so we had a couple guys in my team that were 175 guys, so they had a very good relationship there. We always had really good MLATs. As far as the overall mission went well. We were all still free. It seemed like every time we would go out and do an MLAT and do a recce, it's raining for 4 days, and then the night of the drop, it stops, and we're like, son of a bitch. And you just get on, like you meet up with your link up company or squad or whatever, and they just look at you and they're like, you can tell they're like, oh my gosh, you guys are disgusting. Yeah, we're just like soaking wet and just stink to high heaven and everything. And we get on the bird and everybody's like, oh my God. But it's just the way it is. It's fun. I mean, for me, it was the fact of doing the reconnaissance element, but then also kind of being a little bit smaller of a company. We had small teams, 6 to 8 man teams, and I really liked that a lot. But I mean, I loved being being on the line, doing raids, ambushes, things like that. But I also really liked the reconnaissance aspect of it because it was, like Jason said, we did a lot of things. You're kind of a jack of all trades. You're really not a master of any of them. Whereas in the line, you're focusing on the CQB, CQM stuff. We did that as well. We could do cleared rooms, do that whole thing. But we're also having to do cameras. I'm having to learn Photoshop. I'm having to learn this radio. I'm having to learn this special piece of equipment I got to take out to the field with me because it's going to collect something, some sort of data or whatever. And so it's much more of a technical game there. And so I think that's what intrigued me, because with most of us, our minds are going 1,000 miles an hour, and we're just trying to help calm it down a little bit and kind of get it to where it can focus. And once we get it to focus, we can really, make some things happen, basically. So it was challenging is the biggest thing, is what it was.
What is kind of the history of the recon piece of it? Does it go back to LRSA Vietnam days and stuff where they, or is it something more?
So for me, what I feel like, just reading some history and whatnot, a lot of the reconnaissance element stuff, I think some of it started in World War II, going through the desert, doing some really long-range patrolling out there. I think in Vietnam is kind of when it started to really pick up. And then you had, Special Forces, the Navy SEAL guys. And then for us, we started about 84. So we had Battalion Reconnaissance Platoon, but it's much smaller. And it was kind of like a standards week. You go through a standards week, they do a psych eval, and if they want you to come on for Battalion Recce, then so be it. This one, like I said, you got to go to selection, got to go through the whole process. So I'm like, well, let's try that. Let's see if that'll get me kind of doing long-range shooting, learning a little bit more, just learning something different, really, is what it was. And so that's what intrigued me, because, and with reconnaissance itself, I think coming from Vietnam, it's transformed, because Air Force does it, Navy does it, Marines do it, everybody does it, and I think everybody kind of has their own version of that. Even the BRP guys, the Battalion Recce guys, they kind of have their SOPs and whatnot. We have our own, and I think that's just kind of how all of them morph. Even 82nd, they have LRS and whatnot. So I think there's just that need for having that reconnaissance element, that arm there to help support the regiment as a whole. Mm-hmm. And
it's a regimental asset. It can be a battalion, but it's a regimental asset, not just a company or battalion. It's the regiment's asset. So they answer to the main guy. Mm. I can only say so many things, so I'm like, that's why I'm letting him talk.
No, you're good. No, go right ahead, please.
No, I'm like,
yeah, no, you're probably better that you talk than he talks. So it's in talking about this, we get a lot of intrigue, and I don't know why, and I think it's just because people hear about it or something of that nature, and that's why I thought it would be kind of cool for you to speak a little bit around it, because whenever it's one of these super uber secret type of things, that's where people want to know more.
Of course.
Big shiny object.
Yeah. And for, regiment, it is one of those things that I think people want to understand. So you ended up how long did you end up staying with Recce before you end up going to become an instructor or selection?
So my military career has been laden with injury, like Jason was just talking about. Airborne injuries, like with that Carl Gustav jump, that hurt. Didn't even lower it. Did not even lower that sucker. I didn't know. I had tried trying to unfuck myself, basically, is what I was trying to do, because I'm upside down hitting the prop blast off the C-17 and just like, okay, well, I'm still alive. I'm just holding this one and just hold on for dear life. And then good thing is I went out first. You know where my link up point is? The complete opposite end of the field. That's like
That's a great scatter plan.
Yeah, it's like miles away. And so I'm like, well, this is the dumbest thing ever, but I don't know, whatever. But no, that was, yeah, just times like that, because there was so many dudes that got bad concussions. Like they got rocked hard, hitting the tarmac and whatnot, or you'd hit the ground and then your head hits the tarmac. I've done a couple of those. And so, I graduated the, what's called the reconnaissance training course now. Delta Force has the operator training course. So for us, it seemed fit to be reconnaissance training course. It's modeled similarly. Nobody even really knows exactly how it's modeled. Obviously, they do a lot of shooting because their big thing is CQB, CQM. You know, they're just so proficient at that kind of stuff. And so for reconnaissance, it's a little bit different. So we're like I mentioned earlier, I'm learning about a radio. I'm like, I'm not a radio guy. But I was the radio guy, you know, coming on the team. I'm the sixth. You know, I'm the sixth position on the team, and I'm the commo guy now as an 11 Bravo. So you learn radios, you learn computers, you learn all these programs that we use within the company. And so it's basically kind of like with Delta Force. They start you day zero, and they build you up into what they say, hey, look, these are the standards. This is what we're going to teach you. Task condition standards, go. If you make it, you make it. If you don't, you know, maybe you get another shot, maybe you don't. And so we get done we started, what was it, probably, because I went to the basic course for military free fall late April, early May, and then we started a couple weeks after that. So that's about when we started. And then I believe it was about 8 or 9 months is what it was, that whole process. You go, you know, doing traditional recce, and it's all these different phases within the course itself for the specific training set or skill set that they're looking for. Like, hey, we're going to do, you know, marksmanship. We're going to work on long guns, or we're working on pistol, or we're working on M4, you know, whatever it is, or we're doing shotgun, or we're doing demo, whatever you want to call it. So each phase had its own, you know, gates that you had to meet, and you'd have a board. You know, after selection, that one was very fun. 2.5 hours of just getting teed off on, because they had nothing but time. So you think about the worst interview you've ever had, and then multiply that by 100, and you leave that place thinking you're the biggest piece of shit in the world, and you're about to get kicked out of the Army.
Sounds like my RAS-2 board for E7.
And then
going to be a platoon sergeant, I was like, I'm fired.
I'm fired. I'm gonna let me call my wife real quick. Tell her I'm done.
Start packing.
Yep, start packing. And so we get through that, and then we had what was it, like 6 guys that passed RTC, and so we got spread out through the various teams. I had one guy on my team that I went to RTC with, and so we just started it from there, getting dropped in on a training cycle, going through that, and it was 2000. And it was after, so I did one deployment with RRC in 2010. That was my first deployment. And then 2011, we were doing an MLAT in, it's on the border of Nevada and Utah right there. I think it's Wendover, maybe? I think it's like right on the border. And so it's super open, and we're doing an MLAT out there. And we have 4-wheelers, or quads as people call them. And so we're going to do land where the 4-wheelers are, where the DZSO is and everything, and then we're going to do a vehicle, you know, VDO basically. It was like 60K. We were going to drive in on vehicles, stage them behind, do all that stuff. Well, the low man, a.k.a. the team sergeant at the time, he did what is called a downwind landing. So we have a square parachute. We have a regular, not a static line parachute. We have a military free fall type parachute, which is the exact same thing as a civilian skydiving rig. We have an addition of a waistband just for equipment and whatnot. And so we're very, very big on briefing, hey, this is how you're going to land, this is what you're going to do. And he did not do that. And so that was my big beef with that. But anyways, we're coming across the ground on final. You're supposed to be into the wind, just like when you fly an airplane, you want to be into the wind so you can land, you know, safely and whatnot, and you're not just getting tossed around with a tailwind. So we had a tailwind, and I was doing probably 35 plus miles an hour because I had a navigation board on my chest with a Garmin, and it showed my speed. And I was doing well over 35 miles an hour at this point because we already had high winds. And I went one way, and my leg went the other way.
Oh.
And it was
Literally coming in hot.
oh yeah. You want to talk about coming in hot? I was coming in hot, and I did not care at that point about, like, I was trying to be quiet, maintain, noise, light, discipline, and all that stuff. It was, and I've broken my tib fib on that same leg too, and that did not hurt as bad as this one did. I would rather break both tib fibs than do that one knee. That was the worst pain ever, and it just snaps all your ligaments. So yeah, that was a good time. So basically, I'd blown out every ligament in my knee, and so go back, get it all healed up. It was about an 18-month process, and so during that time, during that healing process, is when I went into selection and training section of RRC. I was the recruiter. I was helping out Mr. Rob Trimble. He's a civilian. He was in RRD back in '94 time frame. What's that?
Still there.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Rob's an angry old man. I love him. Rob's good people though.
He is.
He's a good dude, and so he's in a GS position there now, basically, and he's the OIC of selection and training, which is great, and so I hung out with him for a long time, basically 2 years to heal up, because I was like Jason said, we have the best medical professionals in regiment, and so every day with our trainer on the treadmill, like just doing physical therapy, just trying to get back at it, because I got to deploy again. So 2013 finally rolls around, and I'm back at it, and I get to jump again. And that first jump's a little sketchy, but life goes on, especially at night with the ruck on, and so because you have horrible flashbacks of that. So, but yeah, so I stayed there for about 2 years, and then sported a lot of selections just in selection and training. And then when you're on a team, you still get tasked. You plan out a year and a half in advance and say, hey, team 3, team 2, team 1, you are going to support this selection. So then hey, we're going to be up in northern Georgia for a month doing our selection out there. So which I actually enjoyed it. It sucks being away from your family and everything again, but we would make arrangements to meet them on the weekends or downtime, and we'd have some time off and meet them, hang out. North Georgia is always beautiful. So did that. But even on the teams, I supported I don't know how many selections. So you're a team member, a team guy, and so you're the one sitting in the van all day, and so it's just the way it is. You're doing your time, like you just said, and so it doesn't matter if you're in an E5 or an E8. You're doing the work, and I also enjoyed that a lot, because some places you do see the senior leadership kind of sham out, if you will, kind of be a kind of a dick bird if you want to go that route, by like they're like, oh well, I have the rank, I'm just going to hang out over here, and
that's not how it works where we work.
No, and that's what I really enjoyed, that you see senior leadership stepping up, and he's doing everything you're doing. He's going to try to outdo you. So that's the beauty of that organization. Everybody's pushing each other, and you can do a lot of things, but you got to be very careful, because I'm reaping the rewards of that right now in kind of a negative manner, just from, like we talked a lot about mental health on the first episode. So,
yeah.
But no, I wouldn't change a single thing about it, though. It was a good time.
How many years did you end up staying?
So I was there January 2009, and I left in April of 2017.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a long time. A lot of it burned me out. I will absolutely admit it burned me out, and I did it to myself. I didn't know how to cope or deal with my own things going on, and so I just kept burning the candle at both ends. I'm like, is there a deployment to go on? I'm going. TDY, let's go. Because I was single at the time. I'd gotten divorced already. So the shitty thing was that I kept leaving my daughter. And so now I'm paying for that one. I caused a lot of pain on that, but, be there when you can now.
Yeah.
You can't change the past. So... but yeah, it was a long ride, and it is for someone to be in that environment, and just like being on the line, you deploy 4, 5, 6 months or whatever. You're home for 6, 7 months, and then you're right back out the door. Like there's no dwell time of a year and a half. Like it's, and then not on TDY, excuse me, on your training cycles, are you sitting at home 9 to 5 every day, Jason?
No, you're rowing.
Right, you're so you get home, you go get your leave in, and then. Basically, the day after leave, we go on our jump trip to do our train up for airfield seizure. So
this is my favorite part.
The train up is always fun. Yeah.
I smacked a gator with my face.
Did you?
As a jump master out there for a tandem course. I'm going to say that on air too.
Did you? What is the gator okay?
Yeah. Is a 4-wheel gator type with a motor on it. No, just I thought I'd break that elephant in the room, but
Hey, it's all good.
I downsized in my chute size, and I flared too late, and I had a thermal, and it popped me up a little higher, and I was like, got target fixated. It's one thing we tell you not to do, you know.
It's very easy to do with those.
I'm like, oh shit, I'm gonna hit that. Oh,
I hit it.
Smacked it right. I just turned like this, just barely turned enough, and I good thing I had a full face helmet on, but I busted the tail light off of it and the little plastic tailgate. I popped up like a jack in the box though. I was like, I'm good.
I'm good, even though it hurt like a son of a bitch.
I'm fucked up.
Yep, exactly.
Good thing it was the last jump of the day, and I was like, and I crossed the beer line, so that's cost me. You know,
Oh yeah,
buying all the jump masters a case of beer. I was like, well, that goes my paycheck.
Yep, and that was always a son of a bitch. Like even out where we did the training, even when we're doing our training, you cross we call it the 38th parallel. A few people know what that means, but you cross that and it's over. You owe beer. If you do this, it's beer. If it's your first jump trip, it's beer. It's like, oh my god. We had the pull cords, the metal pull cords for the main canopy on the parachute. You drop that one, it's an $87 piece, right? You drop that one once, that they may give it to you, but you definitely owe beer. The second time, you owe the $87 plus the beer. Like, it's brutal. It's like skydiving. That's why all skydivers are so broke, because they're just buying beer constantly.
That's right. That is true. I bought so much beer.
Yeah, every time.
Look, oh, that was your 200th jump. That's a case.
That's
of beer.
That's a case of beer.
What the hell?
Like, first time out of a C-17, case of beer.
Yeah.
Like, what?
This your first helicopter jump? Case of beer.
You just start learning to say no. I got plenty. No, it's not my first. Not my first.
You learn that really quick.
Yeah.
How many military free falls did you end up doing?
So in the company, I ended up with about 4. I think it was 430. Around something like that.
Wow.
And that's in the time that I was there. Actually, isn't that much. We had guys. My buddy who I actually went to selection in RTC with. He's OPSAR major in Germany right now. He was closer to 700-800 when he left.
Now, there's guys that have in the thousands.
Especially so, the company itself has several military freefall experts there, NCOIC, to help the program. Just like with airfield seizure, you have to do a lot of training and coordinating with all the battalions, with the air crews, all that stuff. And so we have an NCOIC. He will be at every MLAT. He'll be at every jump trip. It's his job to be the coordinator. And a couple of the guys that we had there, depending on who it was, anywhere from 1,000 to 3,000 to 5,000 jumps. And so, but that just goes to show you, like we talked about the medical professionals. We are trying to operate in a higher standard, and so we have to have these people there because you can't have mediocre people around you and expect to be the best. So. For me, it wasn't that many jumps, but it seems like a lot of jumps. It's just a little bit different than static line. Like with military freefall, we jumped and jumped. Like, Jason, we jumped and jumped and jumped. And we did like ad nauseum with
6-7 jumps a day, sometimes
easy.
depending on the weather. But
my first jump trip, we packed every parachute. And that's a spring-loaded pilot chute. Your hands are so fucked up after that. Like, you've got just cracks and cuts because you're trying to stuff that stupid main pilot, the spring-loaded pilot chute in there, and it was miserable. But
it's like trying to get 10-pound shit in a 5-gun.
Yeah, because you can't pack. You don't know how to pack a parachute. Like, they show you, but it's hot garbage. So
I'm like, all these lines.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, it'll pop, and I got another one.
Well, that's like now. Like, I have a civilian. I have my own rig and everything, and it's much smaller and everything, and I don't pack that thing very nicely. The manufacturer actually says to kind of trash pack it, as they say. I make sure all my lines are all squared up, everything's good, cocoon it, not too tight, and then just fold it up, and it goes right in there, and she opens beautifully.
After I became a free fall jump master, I was like, yeah, shit, just shove it in there.
Yep.
Hold the lines, get them all in somewhat in order, ABCD lines, control lines, as long as those are straight. Fold up cram that sheet in the bag, and get on the bird.
It'd be good as long as there's people that they have specific canopies, and I know know about this. They have specific canopies that are quite small, very sporty. You pack that thing wrong, and you know you're doing 100+ miles an hour, and that thing comes out and it fires wrong, and it's either hung up or you have a line over the canopy. You could actually go into a violent death spin to where you're passed out, and that's it. Like hopefully your automatic activation device fires, but they're very finicky. So
I'll tell you what, I'm on the I wouldn't even, I'm on the Silver Wings, but I haven't jumped in a while. But there's guys on there on the team that are just outstanding like jumpers and skydivers, and same with in RC. But everybody wants to talk about skydiving. Like when you really get into like the good guys, like I'm at 500 around there, and then I got 85 static line jumps,
which is a lot.
That's disgusting. And
it is. That's way too many.
That's way too many.
It is way too many.
That's why I'm broken all
exactly.
over. But when you get into the skydive world, like there's dudes that are just amazing skydivers, and they jump like pillowcases. It looks like, and it's just screaming in at like 90 mile an hour across the ground, and they just walk it out. I'm like, see, I'm all about the ride to the ground. So I'm like, once I get the chute open, I don't give a damn what size it is.
Okay.
Like I'm like, yeah, let's just enjoy this little Cadillac all the way to the ground, and I'll go back up, and it goes fall again. Like, but that's how I am. But those guys jump those little chutes, man. I'm talking like my size jumping like a 77. So they try to do like a wing load. Like if you're 200 pounds, like a good chute probably. If you're not a very good skydiver, would be like a 230, 260, or a 200 to wing load at 1-on-1.
And that's in square footage. In the what he's talking about, the 230.
And those guys that are my size jump, 70s, 80s, 100s.
90s, 96
You're like, what?
Valkyries are very popular, and it's unreal because you can get yourself in a bad spot. Even if you have a good canopy and you're under canopy and you're flying, everything's fine. You do that right there too aggressively, you can actually get tangled up in your parachute, and you're going to be a lawn dart very quickly.
Or you get like a rolling crosswind off of off of the building or something that you're cut in front of, or a thermal, and it's just it's only about that big. It's like it's going to collapse.
So why do they?
To do the
thrill?
So it's what they use it for is swooping. Yeah. So they'll be a couple 200-300 feet or whatever above the ground, and they'll start to initiate the swoop. They'll
flare. Yeah,
some guys will go rear brakes or brake hard, get in the fronts, bring the knees up, and then what you're doing is you're taking the front end of the canopy, you're tilting it straight towards the earth, and you're parallel with the earth, going like this. Basically, is what you're doing in a circle, and then. Some guys use risers, some guys use the toggles, but they'll actually flare it out, and then that's where you come across the ground and you skim across the pond, and they'll actually like turn and go through pylons.
Fast.
It's
60, 70 miles.
Unreal. One of our instructors, very well known in the community, he's probably at 18,000, 20,000 jumps at this point. But
yeah, Steve's awesome.
No, it's Jim Vance.
Oh, Vance, yeah.
Yeah.
Jim, he's awesome.
And
Sarah.
Sarah's unreal.
Like a hummingbird in the sky.
Absolutely unreal. But they're swooping, and like it's 5 feet gap. And the 5 feet gap is 2 trucks, not like pylons that you can hit and you'll be fine. No, this is the truck, our government trucks, 22500s, and he's like, yeah, 5 feet apart. I'm like, okay. I was like, if you hit this, Jim, that's on you. Like you can't. This is you. He's like, yeah, it's fine. Don't worry about it. This is out at DeLand in Florida. He just comes in. He does it over and over, just screaming, coming to like 60 miles an hour, right between the trucks, just laughing. Like,
ain't about that life.
Son of a bitch. So I'm starting to. I've got a 135 square foot parachute, and I'm starting to learn the dives and everything. I'm not trying to get crazy with it. I enjoy the free flying.
Me
and
too.
then
that's my life.
I don't do the RW, like relative, where everybody's flying on their bellies doing the points. I'm not too.
I like that stuff. I jump a 190 for a sports rig, and Star Trek for my team rig, and I'm good with that.
Oh yeah, well, and that's the thing. You can actually be incredibly accurate with that 190, more so than with that small 96.
So let me back up. Let's say I can't do it worth a damn. I'm a new guy, whatever you want to call it. So 230, 240. I've got a lot more square footage than that.
Yeah, you'd probably jump at 260.
So at 260, what's the disadvantage of that? You just come in kind of slow, and it's just not as thrill. Is that what the problem is?
It's its ratio of how fast it drops out of the ground and glide ratio is slower.
Yeah, because so like what Jason was talking about earlier, that glide ratio of the wing loading of the wing itself. So with mine, I'm at like a 1.5 because you take your total weight and you divide it by the size of the canopy. Well, you don't want it to be too incredibly high because then you're just going to lawn dart into the earth. This is supposed to be safe for a new jumper. So even if you wouldn't flare with that parachute, you would still be somewhat okay. Like you may break a foot or roll an ankle or whatever, but it's designed for safety really because your forward drive is so much slower on a 260. Now you go a 160, your forward drive or your glide ratio is much, much quicker. Mm-hmm. And so it's really for safety because you're brand new. And I think about it like new jumpers, I see them and I'm like, that's some scary shit right there.
Cringe.
It cringe. Like I cringe so bad, but like, I mean, that's pretty much what I did.
We did one time, yeah, for sure.
We went into the wind tunnel, the vertical wind tunnel for a little bit, and they're like, hey, put this parachute on and this yellow banana suit, and guess what? You're jumping out of the airplane. It's like, oh, okay, cool. You know, civilian, you got to do a tandem, you got to do all this stuff or whatever, but these guys that just hold on to you, they're like, ready, set, go. You come out the plane. They're holding on to you, so in the event that you just completely freak out, you know, they're going to stabilize you. And then if all goes to shit, they're just going to get away from you. You have an automatic activation device for a reason. So
first thing they teach you in free fall school is save your own life. Mm-hmm. So if you don't do anything else, if you don't try to turn, if you don't track, if you don't do any of that other shit that you have to do to pass the test, just pull your damn parachute.
Yes, save your life.
Because people go into screensaver mode, man. Mm-hmm. They're just like, the little screensaver. That's it. They're just sending it. They're like, I'm supposed to do something, but I don't know what it is, you know?
Jason, have you seen those videos? I'm sorry to cut you off, but those videos of the guys with that exact moment in time. On the video, they're like looking at the camera, and it's just the wheel of death. It's just spinning there on the Windows machine. They're like, like, what do I do? Like, pull the parachute, you dumbass. Just save your life. Get silk out there. That's what they always say. Get silk out. Get something out there to slow you down. Slow that rate of descent. If it's half the thing, then it's half of it. At least you'll be half as dead, I guess. I don't know.
But the good thing is whenever you jump with like a new guy, right? So I don't have the license to jump with new guy. I can jump with an A licensed guy and video him because I can do that. But and give some coaching. That's where I'm at. But eventually, I'll get where it is if my body stays without breaking. But
good luck.
Yeah. You have AFFIs, Advanced Free Fall Instructors, and they can actually fly up to you. Like if you're all twisted up and shit, and you know you're like tumbling, and you can't flatten out and arch out, they can fly up to you, turn you on your stomach, get you all stable, give you a thumbs up, and then if you're like just scared shit, let's say they'll fly over, get you stable, and pull your parachute for you. So you're going to jump with those guys for a while, for like, I don't know, 10 jumps or something until like, you might be a little rocky boat in the water, you know, but they'll know that you can like stabilize, stay flat, and pull your parachute. And then after that, you can start jumping with a coach. So, but you're going to jump with guys who have way more jumps than I'll probably ever have.
Yeah.
But if you want to get free fall qualified, go to be a special forces selection or something like that, because it's going to save you about $30,000 in the civilian world.
Oh yeah, it is unreal expensive. Like
I'm getting my license where I'm at now with 500 jumps, like it would been solid.
Well, so
$30,000.
So think about it. Like, okay, let's say just lift tickets, right? Your lift ticket's $25 to $30, right? $25 to $30,
roughly.
You know.
Well, yeah.
I mean, Silver Wings, they obviously get hooked up and everything. I get that, but like typical drop zones is $25, $30 or so, which is a good price. Mm-hmm. That's your own equipment though, but that's times 500. And so and that's like the minimum to get your D license, and that's when you can start getting your ratings, like tandem rating, your free fall instructor rating. You can do the videographer rating much earlier, but skydiving is like it's so expensive. It is so expensive.
If you don't get your license in the Army.
Exactly. And I mean, there's people spending 20, 30 grand, like at the drop of a hat.
Is that the reason why, or is it totally different? Why some of these guys, I always wonder why some of these guys do free base. Why do they do base jumping, and stuff?
No lift ticket.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah.
I think it's a lot more dangerous.
I ain't never doing that. No, I'm good.
I'll do it once. I said I'll do it once. It's got to be really high, but I'll do it once and that's it.
I bungee jumped once.
I haven't even done that yet.
It was negative after that.
You're like, yeah, I'm good.
I'm dead.
Really?
One and done.
Wait, you're free falling.
Yeah.
Isn't it? How different is it than bungee jumping?
Because you're attached to a damn rubber band.
Yeah. You only have one.
That's it.
There's no backup.
Like literally committing suicide. You know what I mean? Like you're on your way.
Yeah. Well, I mean, to think about it, like with a parachute, you got 2 parachutes, right?
Yeah.
So you have 2 chances.
I packed one, and somebody I think more qualified than me packed the other one.
He should be. Should be.
It only cost me a bottle of Jack Daniels for him to pack it, so that may be a problem. But I think
Hopefully you didn't drink it beforehand. Yeah.
tomatoes, whatever.
Yeah. Well, what does the rigger always say? The parachute wants to open.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm gonna put it out there. Then we'll see what happens.
I hate when they say that when I see a T11. I'm like, yeah, I thought you said it wanted to open.
Yeah, and it's like a cigarette roll just coming into earth.
We do have the best riggers too, and the riggers that go out to those trips with them, man, that they know they're also like really qualified in free fall, and they know everything about the parachutes, and most of them are like tunnel masters and AFFIs and tandem masters.
Tandems.
So when somebody's working on your parachute, that you're getting the best guy in the world, in my opinion. If he's going to touch my shit, like that's the guy I trust to do it.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, it's in the course itself versus being in the civilian course, getting your A license. Within, I don't know, 10, 15 jumps or whatever, we're starting to jump with combat equipment, rucksacks and whatnot. And that it's like, as a civilian, you don't even touch that ever.
Yeah.
And so you're adding a whole nother level of difficulty. And that's when the shit show really, rucksack rodeo, dudes are all over the place. I'm sure you saw that, Jason.
Nothing like 18,000 feet blacked out at night and full combat equipment wall locker with O2. You're like, yeah, this is going to be interesting.
Yep, this is going to be an interesting jump. It's pitch black, and you got your little green dots there for your nods.
That are fogged up, by the way.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I can't see shit.
Like, I think I'm falling in the right direction.
You're just looking at your altimeter, making sure, we're losing altitude.
Yeah,
so
definitely falling.
Yep, all right. I'm not dead yet. No, it's a much, much different experience at night, especially when there's no loom. Oh my gosh.
It definitely takes the pucker factor up another notch.
Did you guys ever do hey-ho?
Oh yeah, that was primarily our method. Like so even like on the jump trip itself during the day, we would do we wouldn't wear all the equipment, so we would just put the rucksack on just to practice. So we'd maybe go up to 10,000 feet. We do a hop and pop. You do the hey-ho, high altitude, high opening. You jump out, and then you're just floating, and so you're stacking. Because we always wanted to make sure everybody's stacked, because that way, if everybody stays together and is all traveling in the same direction, then we don't have any,
collisions.
Yeah, collisions. Because at night, number one, in the day, like the amount of accidents that happen in the day is crazy. And like it's daytime and you don't see these people, and at night you're not gonna see shit. Like it's so dark, but. Thankfully,
you're damn sure looking harder though. I can guarantee.
Yeah,
you've never looked at the sky so hard in your life.
Oh man, you're just like
you're like, where's red? Where's red?
Yeah,
where's red?
yeah.
You know what I mean?
Where's the I? Yeah, or like we would just
where's the IR?
IR, just where we're and then sometimes we would do at a certain altitude. It's like, hey, look, during our training and whatnot, we just black out because we try it. Hey, look, how did that work? How does it work with IR? How does it work with this? And so you're trying different methods and whatnot, and it's very difficult because you're not jumping on an airfield. You're jumping on
an unmarked drop zone.
Yeah, an unmarked drop zone. Like you're jumping where they give you the coordinates and say, hey, this is where you're going to be jumping. And then you as the primary and the assistant jump master, you have to plan that out for your team. And so you better be shit hot on all your, your jump duties and everything, being a master rated jumper, having your jump master rating, because it's on you. And then when you lay in short, who are they going to look at? You. And so I've done that several times.
Knock on wood. On any of my free fall jumps, I never had nobody not make it back to the drop zone.
Oh, we did it so many times.
But I did screw one of my buddies. I won't mention his name, but he is a rigger. And I didn't make it back to the drop zone, and he put us out.
Uh-oh.
He was like, you just jacked up my record. I was like, well, I want to say you went long. It's all your fault.
Yeah, that's exactly what I would say.
It was definitely my fault. However, I'll admit that now, but at the time I was sticking to my guns.
I would too. Stick to your guns. No, I'd say, hey, you went long.
exactly.
No, we landed and it happened. Either somebody have a malfunction or we'd have like wonky winds. Like we'd be, 18, 20 kilometers away from the objective. And so it's like you get some weird wind shifts or it dies down drastically. And then it's like, hey guys, we're making a decision, and we'd have all of our, through the planning process, you have all your gates like, hey, if we get it to this point, this is where we're going. If we get to that point, that's where we're going, type deal, just to have those measures in place. And never really had any big issues. It's just fun kind of actually landing in the middle of the desert somewhere and you end up in some dude's field. And then 3 hours later, you finally get picked up. And so, because you landed in the worst spot and you're like, well, I can't see, it's dark. So you can't land close to the road when it's just all like weird black and gray lines and tan. And you're just hoping you don't hit a damn fence or power lines,
I've seen dudes hit fences.
Yeah, right here.
Kicked a fence.
9 stitches. Yeah. That was a good time. I bent 8-foot chain link fence. Yeah, 3 days later, I'm jumping again. It's a good time.
So I went out to Yuma for Free Fall School. I didn't have the opportunity to go to the cool one. We don't talk about the difference in the people that go there, but at the end of the day, there's 2 different ones, and one of them is really good to go to, and the other one is like a McDonald's drive-thru.
Great value versus name brand.
Quality and quantity are 2 different things. You know what I mean? So if you go one place, you get one. You go to the other place, you get the other. But by our 10th jump, we're testing out of things, and you're like, I still don't know how to put the damn parachute on.
Yeah, 10 jumps.
Yeah. At 10 jumps, you're doing your graded extra, your great full wall locker, and I was like,
so wild.
This is insane. But yeah, it was a good time. And you're packing all your chutes and stuff. But my buddy Tim, I'll tell a story about him because I won't say his last name. But he's Tim. We went to Free Fall School together. He's an SF dude. I will say that. But we were on our very first jump, and there was shit. I've done one tandem since like I actually nobody knows this, but I on the C-27 I literally felt like I was like, oh man, I'm not fucking pass out, and that's a safety violation. Like you wake up on the ground and you're still in the bird, you're going to the house. So I retch up on the seat to pull myself up, and I was like, and when I did, my finger got smashed like a son of a bitch because we were taking off in the in the seat. I was like, oh, but it kept me from passing out. So every time, like the first 5 jumps, everybody's like, go to sit up in the end. I was like, get out of my way.
Get out of my way.
And I put my hand in there like a damn credit card, dude.
Just so you feel the pain.
As we're taking off, I'm like, ow.
But I'm awake.
Because, you stand up pretty quickly. I was like, I just got to make it to altitude.
That's all I got to do.
That's a funny one. But
that's awesome.
As we're falling, the second time, or the very first jump we had, we all get out, and you just see, whoosh, this guy, I was like, what the hell? And
moving.
he cut away, and we get down on the ground, and we're packing up our shit. And we're like, hey Tom, you good, dude? He's like, oh man, I had a cutaway. I was like, on your first jump, holy shit, He's like, yeah, man, I was just spinning out of control, and the instructor came back into the packing map area, and he's holding his chute up and his control lines. You have unstowed brakes, so when you unstow your brakes, you feel like it gives you control. But if during the sequence it opens or you don't stow it when you pack it or whatever, and your chute opens and you got one stowed brake and one not, one's high, one's low, so you'll turn in the direction that the one's still stowed. Mm-hmm. So he had an unstowed brake.
So he thought he was tied up.
Well, yeah,
but he wasn't.
No, because on an unstowed brake, you just reach up and unstow the other brake, and now you're good to go. Yeah, and do your canopy checks and you're good. But very first jump, he's like, I'm spinning, and he's like, he just fucking cuts away. He's like, send it, perfectly good shoot. And
yep.
And like he said earlier, you just want to get as much silk out as you can, and
do whatever you can.
If I was spinning, I would have reached up and grabbed the risers to pull down on this side to stop the spin. But your very first jump, you're just freaking the hell out. Anyway, he got that ripcord handle to take home.
Oh, he got a souvenir, huh?
Yeah.
Nice.
He's like, yeah, I had an unstowed brake. And they're like, that's your one.
Oh, they didn't even make him buy beer? Damn. I just still made him buy beer.
I gave him shit for the rest of the class, which is awesome.
Yeah, absolutely.
I just told him yesterday too. He's a great guy, man. He's a great dude. He's a good leader, and it's just nice when you think about funny stuff that you go to and things you get to see people all the time different because in a small community, and you just give people shit about. I mean, they call me Gator. You know what I mean? Like if I go to RRC and the older guys that were there,
I do remember Paul. You guys were talking about that. That's your nickname,
Gator, because I smacked a gator with my face.
Hey, everybody's got a nickname for a reason.
Hey, it's a badass nickname, though. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If nobody else knows it,
and
you just hear Gator, I'll be like,
Gator.
That's me.
Yeah, that's me. Just don't make me tell the story. Yeah, don't tell the story.
Well, now thousands of people are going to know. Like, hey, Gator, I'm like, this is what we're doing.
Well, I had basically the exact same thing happen. I had a break fire. It was on a non-standard. It was like a 190.
What's a break fire?
Basically the same thing. What he's just talking about, just a different way to explain it, or different way to describe it, I guess. Mine. So parachute's a little bit smaller. That one's about a 360. This one's about is 190, and so. I'm packing the parachute. I come out and I'm only at probably about 150 jumps, and I'm still. You don't know shit at 150 jumps.
Hell no.
Nothing.
I don't know shit at 500.
Exactly. I'm in your ballpark as well of jumps, and I feel like I don't know anything yet. You know, even having I think I'm at 6 something right now, and I still feel like I don't know that much. I guarantee I can fly a ruck. You know, because I did that ad nauseum. You know, in the tunnel, out of the tunnel, and all that stuff, and so. It's one of those things that it's just you learn how to do it, and it's
the first badge everybody always asks.
Yeah, the MFF jam.
They're like, yeah, what is that?
Well, the first thing they saw when they saw the picture, they naturally assumed that you were in RRC because of the free fall.
Typical, yeah.
I was very fortunate with my free fall slot. I was a platoon sergeant in Alpha Company, and we did the senior NCO thing, and me and Sergeant Major Johnson were in a boat together. We were rowing the boat, literally. Well, he was. That dude never stopped rowing the entire 3 miles. I'm like over here like feeble arms, and he's just like a damn motor.
You're like,
he's like, go ahead, Beaufort, you're good. Just take a break, and he just never stopped. So
it's the machine.
In the midst of letting him do all the work, I found a great opportunity to ask him if I could go to free fall school. And I felt like it had been a hypocrite if he'd have said no, considering he had it.
Oh, so, good call.
I was like, this is it. You know, I was like, if you're swing big.
Yeah,
you know?
swing to the fences.
And it was like silence. And I was like, I'm fucked.
I'm going to die. He's going to put me in the water.
Not only is he, you know, a badass, he's going to drown me. And be like, we couldn't find him. But,
well,
he's an amazing
accident.
Yeah, he's an amazing leader. And his only comment was, if you have a job after TFT, I'll think about it. And I was like, TFT's like the platoon sergeant Super Bowl, you know? And I was like, oh, well, that's shit. You know, that's a huge one, you know.
It all weighs on that one. You're like, son of a bitch.
And then he killed me on the mission, on the last mission of TFT.
Did he?
Yeah, he's like, don't move, take your radios off, you're dead, don't say a word.
Oh shit.
And I was like, and I've you know, I'd already been in regiment 11 years probably by then, and I'd seen many platoon sergeants that got killed during TFT training, and they're now doing their charter time. And I was like, I'm done. And then at the end, you know, he gave the AR, and he's like, hey, you did a good job, and enjoy school.
Damn.
Like, that just happened.
Hell yeah.
I was still like, wow.
Still reeling from it.
That's the story everybody asks.
So let me ask you this, Jason. Do you think, just because I hear the word platoon sergeant, do you think that like they started doing that for a reason on TFT? Started schwacking the platoon sergeant?
Yeah, I mean, and you know,
Explain what TFT is for those who are listening.
Task force training is like a cumulative at the end of the.
It's like a VALEX, like a validation exercise. You know,
I think it. You know, I'm not the first person to say this, and it was told to me, and I just carry it on. You know, but one of the things that he said, you know, it's like a true tale of a leader is how good your platoon does without you. Mm-hmm. And if you've done the right mentoring and trained your guys right throughout the time you've been there, shine. It'll show. And if they completely bolo it, then that'll show as well. And I really probably didn't teach them shit. They were just really good. So
Good stuff. Good Rangers.
So I was like, man, I'm glad you guys really crushed that. You really figuratively and literally put me on the litter, carried my ass, you know. So I just had an amazing platoon and 2 alphas, you know, the greatest platoon I've ever been a part of. And I got a tattoo that says the same. And, you know, we call them the boys, you know, and like
The boys.
you know, it's called, we started saying the 2 alpha standard all the time. And one of the things I've done, you know, as leaders, when I get to where I'm going, and I'm sure we'll probably hear on Instagram some of my sayings, but I want people to buy in, right, to my philosophy, if you will, you know, whatever that may be. Some of them I probably shouldn't say, so I won't, because I'm still in the Army, but those guys, you know, they would buy into that, and that would give them like ownership in what we were doing or what I was trying to get across. And so we were doing layout one day, and, you know, I just took over and I was like, that's not the 2 alpha standard. And I just kept saying that everywhere we went. And then when I was like, if I never did anything, it gave me a sense of pride. Like, I heard the team leaders were corrective training in the back.
Yeah.
And I heard one of them say, you know, it's not the fucking 2 alpha standard. I don't care what the rest of the platoons do. And I was like,
yeah,
I have made it.
I have made it.
You know, like, because, you know, I look up to every one of those guys. You know, every one of those guys are going to, or are probably better leaders than I'll ever be. Those young kids, and they were awesome when I was there, and they're better now than for me probably not being there. I don't know, but that one fucking moment gave me that, like, wow, you know, and I was like, yeah, I did do something right. Even if they didn't like my leadership, they still got something that gave them a sense of pride in the platoon, you know, and that built that cohesion. And Sergeant Major Johnson was saying in front of my speech when I was going out as a platoon sergeant, you know, he's like, you know, one thing, when 2 alphas is around, you got the 2 alpha standard, and it's always going to be upheld, you know. And it never was anything special. It was literally
The standard.
Enforcing the standard, you know. But when we add that sense of purpose to it and like ownership, they just took a bite of it, and they were like, that's what we're going to do.
That discipline.
And we're going to be better than everybody else doing it. So
yeah, it's amazing how
very
people
prideful for that. Yeah.
No, that's amazing, and it's amazing how people of the same mindset, they gravitate towards that. You know, they're gravitating towards that mindset of that. And to me, it's a discipline thing, because you're just enforcing the standards, but these guys are taking it, you know, a notch up, and they're like, look, it's either this or it's not. Like, we're not going to let shit slide, and that's, you know, that's a testament to his leadership, you know, and that's something that. I don't know, maybe one of my guys did something that I showed him or whatever. I don't know. I've never had that, you know.
Positive they have.
Yeah, and it's because of, you know, just like Jason is saying, we're trying to make these guys better than us. And so they don't see it that way. Most of them don't. I didn't see it that way when I was a young private. And so that's the whole point. Mm-hmm. Just like with your kids, I'm learning that with my dad, and, you know, going down the line, it's like all you want to do is do a little bit better than what you had, or what you're, you know, always go better. Give your kid, you know, make it better for your kid. Make it better for your
aware of it. Yeah. If you're conscious, if you're aware of it, if you're living in the moment and noticing that, because you see a lot of people that just end up becoming their father or becoming their.
You have to have a growth mindset to do that, though.
Yeah. I feel like in regiment and special operations, there's a lot more of those, you know, per capita, if you want to go that route. Like, there's a lot more people in that organization. There are those guys that they follow orders, and that's what they do, and that is all they want to do, and that's perfectly fine. We need those kind of guys, but we also need guys with that growth mindset, and that's kind of why I gravitated towards RRC, because it was they more so let you kind of roam freely than, hey, you're going to have to walk exactly in this boundary. This is kind of what we need, and this, just execute. Obviously, they would say, no, you can't do X, Y, and Z. You can't, you know, you got to stay within the legal bounds and, you know, moral and ethical bounds. But it's just that's the beauty of it. You know, you're in special operations, and you're hanging out with a little bit older guys, and you're working with older, you know, team members and whatnot, and it just ends up working out better because you guys have so many guys that are handpicked at this point that have that mindset, and when they come together, it's very powerful.
Why didn't you end up going to like JSOC or something? Because it's very similar in the sense of you don't have those standard roles. I mean, when you go through selection, you've got kind of a training schedule, but they don't tell you what to wear, it's just a different mindset. So why didn't you end up?
So the reason I had my application,
or did you even have So did you have an appetite for it? Let's put it that
absolutely,
way first.
absolutely. So Delta Force was always in the works as far as like something that would eventually happen. 2010, my daughter came along, so that threw a big wrench in it.
That's life changing.
It is. It's very life changing. And then 2013, I'm divorced, and I'm like trying to figure out what I'm going to do, and I'm never home, and I'm like, is going to selection for something that's going to move me away from Fort Benning?
Yeah.
Is that the best thing? I know a lot of guys that have done it before, and they're like, oh yeah, my kid's fine, and that's cool. Whatever you do, you. I'm going to do me, and I can't do that. And so, basically, what it boiled down to was my daughter.
Yep.
Yeah, that
Right decision.
I've been asked the same question. Like, why didn't you ever get it? I used to be in good shape, believe it or not.
not as broken.
Not as broken. Yeah. And
saying that as he's shifting around because of his hips.
Yeah, right.
Exactly.
Like a cat on a hot rock over here. But no, I've been asked several times, like, hey, why didn't you go to selection or whatever? But first, they probably wouldn't want me because my mentality's all, I'm a standard driven type guy. I can think, I do think outside the box, but I'm more like, I'd rather cut my hair. And I like to grow a sick beard though, but I'm all about cutting my hair. My son was a huge influence on me. When I went through my divorce, I was in the best shape of my life, and he was like, "Aren't you gone enough?" And I was like, "I'm done. That's it."
Yep.
Somebody's got to be a Ranger Company first, aren't?
Yep.
Yeah, literally. And I was like, because I was so selfish. I felt so selfish that I was like doing it that way. And when he said, aren't you gone enough? And don't you know that we're all proud of you? And I was like,
yeah,
done. Yeah, exactly.
I think that every one of us hits that at some point, or at least some of us hit that at some point. And I mean, even in my career, it was, I had just gotten out of the service, and I've spoke about this in previous podcasts and stuff, because I'm pre 9/11. I had gotten out in 2001, retired, and only a few months prior to September. And when it kicked off, I wanted to go back, but it was the same thing. My family said, what the hell are you trying to prove? Kind of thing. But we joined for that. We join because we want to keep pushing ourselves and some of us pushing the envelope and seeing how far we can go and see what the ceiling really is and everything. And then at some point you realize maybe you're not living in the moment. You're living for yourself, and your families are usually the first one to
suffer.
Yeah. And hopefully remind you of that, right?
Yeah.
And I did the exact same thing when I got out. I still hadn't learned it well enough, because I did the exact same thing in the private sector, started climbing the corporate ladder, killing everything alongside me because I was going towards a specific goal. And, I've shared this on multiple episodes when someone, very close said, it's good to have you back. When I finally realized that, that was the moment I realized that I had been going in the wrong direction, that I had forgotten everybody around me once again, and I was driven. And it's something we've got to do checks and balances on.
Yeah, get your azimuth checked.
Yeah, and sometimes it's a friend that can help you do that, or a loved one. Thankfully, you had a son that was old enough to say it. In your case, it was just seeing your daughter, knowing, all right, that's my compass right there. That's where I need to go.
Absolutely.
For me too, like the reason I was going to go give it a shot had nothing to do with all the special stuff. I was like, if this bond in the team that I'm in right now, or the squad that I led, was that tight, imagine, and we worked at this level, imagine going to the next level and working in a team that is even more tight, and you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You see each other even more.
Yeah, and I was like, man, how much more lethal could you get? And
but what's interesting too, though, like when in the case of Chris Van Sant, who's been on the podcast multiple times, when Chris was asked to leave JSOC and ended up having to go back to the 82nd and everything.
I remember I listened to that episode. It was a great episode.
Yeah, it was kind of the pain of that, of him realizing that he was at the tip of the spear, and then what do you do now? And so we talked about that, with Ray McPadden, and about at some point, you're running and gunning really hard, and then all of a sudden you slam on the brakes and you decide to get out, and that's a major step off. I mean, it's almost like the car is going 80 miles an hour and you jump out the door.
Yeah, just hit a wall and you went out the damn windshield.
I'm going to tell you how that feels on Tuesday. Yeah. I'll be honest with you, man. Like, I built my life on this, where I love this organization, man. I give my life for it, and it made me, it made me into the man I was as a, young E5, E6, and it made me in the man that I was as an E7, and it's turned me into, having the leadership and development that the man that I think I am now and better going forward. Like I said, my motto is better every day, and it's given me everything in my life. And I was writing my speech yesterday, and it was hard, and I was like, I got a couple of pages, and I was like, this is going to be rough, and
but yet it doesn't define you.
No, it doesn't. But, and I'll always be a Ranger, there's in my story of,
you got the scroll tattooed on your arm?
I do not, but I do have a badass DUI Spartan on my right arm. But anyway, it's literally a half sleeve. But it'll be with me everywhere. But I just kind of reflecting back, and I was kind of bottling that up and not facing it. And I was talking to Dave about it. I talked to Dave about everything, but because we've been working on some stuff, and he's like, I want you to just stop, and just enjoy these last few days that you're there and why you're there, and spend the time like reflecting back when you're driving. And he's like, if you have to cry it out, who cares? Like, you earned it, Mm-hmm. And I really took that to heart, and I was like, because I know the hardest thing I'm ever going to do in the next 3 or 4 or 5 weeks is when I fucking take my tambourine off,
Yeah.
I have the original tambourine I donned in RIP. I've been wearing it the entire time.
Damn.
Yeah.
That must be a stinky ass.
Yeah. It's not even that faded, man. I take care of my shit, care of equipment, right?
The 2 Alpha Standard.
2 Alpha Standard.
2 Alpha Standard.
Care of equipment.
That's right. Still.
Febreze is a great thing.
It is. It absolutely is.
But yeah, it's good stuff.
Yeah. Well, and I was going to say something about that, and I thought, it's not that big of a deal. But I was going to say, you're switching headgears. In some cases, as wearing it along as you have, it is a big deal.
It's the biggest deal in my life.
Yeah,
right now.
you look
because
down
it
and you
symbolized something. You guys were told when it was given to you that every day you earn this, and you screw up, that's it.
Put your bad decision in this hand, your tambourine in the other, and see which one weighs the most.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been doing that 15 years.
Yeah, that's exactly 100%. Like, just you fight every day just to stay there, and you do everything you can just to stay in that organization. And that's why people are so passionate about it. A lot of people, say negative things about Rangers because they're assholes and this and that and the other. And I'm like, yeah, most of them are assholes, but those assholes will still have your back.
100%.
Yeah. Like, and there's guys that I probably don't even like. I respect them, and they would probably still, if I called them, they'd come help me, and I would do the same for them. We may not agree on things, on some level, but that camaraderie, that bond, especially like Jason was talking about, and like in RRC, my buddy that's in Germany, like we're forever cemented. Like we went through selection together. We were on the same team together. We've done a lot of stuff together. We spent more time together, he and I, our team, than we have with our own families, and it's like, I can go without talking to him for like a month straight. No contact, zero. And then I just talk to him and hit him up. It's, just one of those weird things. I know he's got stuff to do and everything, but that bond that is created within all the Rangers that, hold the same values that, Jason and I are holding, talking about how much it means to us. It's like, that's why we're assholes. That's why we are the way that we are. That's why we're so passionate in it. it's not just because we wake up and we're like, hey, I'm going to be a dickhead today. Some guys do, yeah, I'm sure. But like, you know,
I think, you know, it's not necessarily, I think, so I used to be a big asshole. And
I've heard.
Yeah, very big. I admitted to that. And I've worked really hard to, you know, have a growth mindset and be better every day and be disciplined in everything I do and put people first, you know, over the last, you know, year or so of my life, you know, trying to make those changes. They're hard changes. You got to look inside to change that and realize there is an issue and the issue is you.
Yep.
So, you know, I just, one of my biggest mentors, you know, he's like, there's only two things you can affect every day when you wake up, and that's your attitude, your mindset. Everything else is just going to happen throughout the day. So if you can control those two things, like, you can start making changes in your life. And that really struck me and hit home, you know, and I was like, damn. So, I used, now, if you start talking shit about regiment and all that stuff and you ain't been there, like, yeah, I'm probably going to turn back the clock. But I'm very passionate about it. Obviously, I wouldn't let anybody put the regiment down, but I'm not like no A team. Like, don't you talk about my battalion, you know, fucking Mr. T. But I had to get that quote in there. But it's something that you give your life to, you love, and, you know, and you want people to. You don't necessarily need people to respect it as much as you do, because obviously if they haven't done it, they're not going to. But you definitely want people to understand the sacrifices that those men make, you know, and they have continued to make, you know, for years and years at the level they continue to make it at. And that's the one thing. If you're going to ask, like, you know, what's Ranger want, and I was like, he doesn't need. I don't need a pat on the back, you know. I appreciate the thank yous and all that, and it's nice, and you know, the pleasure's all mine. But he just wants that little bit of like kind of respect towards, like, not what he's done, but towards what the guys that he's been beside and led or been led by that keep doing what they do every single day at like the hours that they put in, the training they put in, the hard ass training they put in, the hours away from home, the TDYs, the deployments, the lost Ranger buddies, all those things. Like, those guys and me for the last 15 years, they take it on the chin every single day, and then they go back to their office or their desk, and they're like, they figure out a way to solve the problems that are outside, like, the normal person, I would say, like, capability of thinking how hard they're going to have to work to solve some type of that problem.
So let's talk about that for a minute, because as I was listening to you, and then of course hearing both of your stories, you know, are you concerned, because you've lived through this, but he's not yet. But are you concerned about the demons coming back? And, you know, because sometimes you get focused and you have the ability of just constantly running and going, gunning and being in the moment still to this point. And although you've had to face it in some regard, again, the idle mind that we talked about earlier.
Idle mind's a devil's playground. Yeah.
It is.
Yeah. Dave taught me that, you know, and the thing is, you know, I've done a lot of counseling. You know, I'm a big advocate of that, and we'll talk about that tomorrow some more on with Dave. But you know, I've done a lot of counseling and a lot of self-reflection and meditation and all those things, and mindfulness. You know, and all those, like, things that, you know, they say, here, try this and try this. I'm about it. You know, if it's going to make me better. But the one thing that I, you know, first off, I've never done anything in regiment that I've ever regretted. Every trigger I ever squeezed, I was proud of it. But the only thing I regret is losing the Ranger buddies that I've left, you know, just like everybody else. As far as, like, the things I've done outside of that, I have no regret about it. Go do it all again. And I'd do it again 10 times more if I got to keep them with me. You know? So there's that part. But the you know, there are issues, you know, like if I didn't have issues, I wouldn't see a game counselor every Thursday.
Right.
You know, so,
Yeah.
But
I'm on Mondays.
yeah, so
Monday's my day.
you need to talk about it. That's fine. But as far as the demons coming back type thing, you know, what I have started doing and have done for the past probably, I don't know, 6 months, I started doing more, is if you don't bring positivity into my life, if you don't add value to it,
Bye.
and you don't support me, have a nice life.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when you change your mindset and you can grow up, come talk to me. And I've just like been doing everything I can to surround myself with like-minded people that don't tell me that you're right all the time. That'll be like, you're fucked up, you know, but we'll be there for you to help you through it.
Yeah.
And I've done the best I can over the last 6 months or so, and to try to really like cut negativity out of my life, surround myself with people that want to see you succeed. You don't need a pat on the back. Nobody does that. You just need that positive support, right? People that'll pray for you, people that'll, you know, talk good about you when you ain't around. You know, that's the kind of person you want to surround your life with. And there's a lot of that I didn't have, you know, and you kind of know it, right? You know. And I've made some phone calls to be like, just so you know, like, I'm never going to talk to you again, you know? And I have no problem saying that because I know where I'm going, because I could tell Dave all the time, looking in the, you know, the windshield, not the rear view mirror, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
The rear view mirror keeps me in check, but the windshield's where I'm going, and the people I want to go there are those type of people. And that has been the biggest thing that helps me. And then, you know, Dave and Tracy and Dennis, Claire, like Pete, like all those, like Mike, like all those positive people in my life, you know, like I just surround myself with them, and and my brother Brandon, like, just keep piling that up, not for the pat on the back, but for the good feeling, right? When you win.
Well, because it's you know, the positivity is going to breed more positivity.
That's right.
Because if you know, you hang around with people that are doing nothing but bitching and complaining. I know you've heard it, Rangers that are just sitting there bitching and complaining all damn day. And then you're like, well, you fix what they're bitching and complaining about, and then they'll just find something else to bitch and complain about just because they want to bitch and complain.
I got a no bitching policy.
Exactly. It's like, I told dudes, if you're going to bitch and complain, you can do it to yourself in your own head. You're going to be on a talking profile. I will absolutely counsel you and put you on a talking profile. If you're going, that's all you're going to do is sit here and bitch and complain. Because what does it do? It brings everyone down. Now, what Jason's talking about is not just like blowing smoke up everybody's ass. Like, you know, if the three of us were hanging out, we're not just going to be like, oh, you're the greatest. No, you're the greatest. You're just emitting positivity, as far as you're not trying to go down these roads of negativity or where those demons live, because those demons come visit all the time. And so it's key, you know, and exactly what he's saying is what you need to do. Surround yourself with those people that bring positivity into your life. I hear that a lot from military folks, veterans that are either, or guys
your circle of five. Who are your circle of five, and how are they challenging you?
Guys and gals are saying, hey, look, as soon as I started cutting out these people that were just breeding negativity into my life, it completely changed.
Yeah, for sure.
And I've shrunk my circle quite a bit, and there's very few people I talk
Me
to.
too, everybody.
That's for a reason. It's for a reason, and not to be an asshole, or I'll absolutely talk to anybody, but like, I'm not looking for another best friend. I'm sorry. I'm not sorry. Like, you know, not that anybody's got applications out there. I'm you know,
I'm taking resumes.
All right, let me put this away.
Resume, exactly. but what I'm saying is, like, you know, you're not gonna
Instagram one shot,
right? I've got a couple of guys that are like my blood brothers.
Yeah.
You know, one's a civilian, and he's a fire marshal, and the other one is in the military. And so I've got both ends of the spectrum, but to me, the relationship is somewhat the same. We just had different experiences. And so it's just like, for me, it's both of those guys are positive, and I keep them around. And so having that positivity around, it turns you into a better person. But the thing is that you don't realize, and it's still hard for me to accept, is that I am actually making those people better as well. Jason's making Dave better just by being Jason. and he doesn't realize it. He doesn't think it, you know, and I don't think it, but I've heard many times that people have told me that I did something and I didn't even realize I had done anything, and I affected them in a positive way. And to me, that makes me feel good because I'm like, oh shit, I actually am doing something good around here. So,
you know, when my mom or my sister, you know, tell me how proud they are of you, you know, you're like, all right, that's kind of your job, right?
yeah.
But whenever somebody, like last night, you know, I was going to stay in Tuscaloosa, but, you know, I had a meeting there, and then I was like, you know, hell, would this be shorter if I drive back to Benning and then drive here in the morning? So I literally got like 2 hours sleep last night. It's great. But
I didn't know that. You drove back to Benning? Damn.
Ridgely Way.
That's right. 2 Alpha Standard.
2 Alpha Standard. But where was I with that? Yeah. My mom, I'm like, that's your job, you know, to tell me, thank you. You know, you're doing great, son, you know. But last night on my way back, I would talk to Mike for 4 years. I was saying, you know, and he called me, and I missed his call at first because I was still talking to Dave, and then I called him right back. And about 5-6 years ago, he went through a hard time too, and I was kind of harassing to him. I was like, hey, come over to the house, have a beer. Hey, come over to the house. And he admitted last night, he's like, man, like, nobody else was there, and I wasn't doing it for any other reason. Like, I know he was having a bad time, going through divorce and stuff, and I knew the story, so I was like, hey man, come over here and waste your time, you know, like hang out with me, let's talk and bullshit, you know. Yeah. And I literally harassed him probably until he was like, all right, I'm gonna come. Yeah, fine.
Shut up.
Yeah. If it'll shut him up and stop ringing my phone, I'll come over.
Right.
So, and I would stop. He worked on Benning for a while as a civilian, and I'd stop in there at the place where he works and have lunch with him, and we went to Talladega together and did some cool stuff and the races. But out of the blue, he called me last night, and 4 years later, and he's like, and I text Dave, or I called Dave this morning and talked about it, but he's like, you have changed my life forever, and I just wanted you to know that.
He said that to you.
That's what he said to me.
That's wild.
And I was like, it's 12 o'clock at night, and I'm driving down the blacked out highway in Alabama, and random phone call from an old friend, you know?
Yeah.
And he's like, whenever I was going through my hardest times, you're the only person out of everybody that I had that was consistent with calling me and checking on me. And I was like, well, if calling somebody saves their life, then, or helps them in some way, then
do it.
You should call and check on your buddy more often, and stuff. And you lose track and life happens, but if somebody's under mind or heart, like, you should text them, call them. What's that cost you? Nothing, but could cost them their whole time.
For so long, I heard people saying things like, my circle's really small, and you said that. I got to thinking about it in my own life, and at the very beginning, when I used to hear that, I used to say, "What the hell does that mean? What are they really talking about, and why? Why would they want to do?" Then I got to thinking about my own, and my wife probably helped me reflect on this a little bit more too. My circle is like this big, and I didn't realize it until I started like breaking it down, like how many people are really close friends versus maybe associate, people you associate with, but you're not really friends. Even. You know what I mean? Yeah, they're acquaintances or whatever. Yeah. And you can, you judge those by different standards, like you were talking about. Like some of these guys, you can pick up the phone. Doesn't matter how long it's been or whatever, they're there.
Yeah, and the conversation never misses a beat. It's like it continues from the last time 6 months ago. It's weird.
It's like one of those, hold on a minute, I'll be right back, bud.
But we've got...
Yeah, exactly.
I bring this up because we've also gotten to a society, through social media and stuff like that, where followers, we want people to follow us. We want people to think of us highly, respect us, or whatever. Like us, right? Yeah. And to where we need to understand the difference, though. There are people that if that's what you're wanting to do and you're wanting people to accept what you're doing or who you are or anything else, maybe that's a problem anyway. That's an issue. You need to kind of rethink about that. But certainly, like you were talking about, you need to cut out of your life those who probably shouldn't be in that closest circle, who know you better than anybody.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you're talking about the Facebook thing or the social media rather, I took all my social media down for 15, 16 months or something like that. And one of the reasons I did that was I was doing exactly what you said. Like if I would post something, I would probably check it 900 times a day to see how many people liked it. I was looking for that immediate affirmation, and I wasn't able to give it to myself.
It's dopamine built into the application.
That's right. Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
It is. I mean, it's been done that way on purpose, obviously. But it's finding that arbitrary like from someone you don't even know, and it's like, what does that do for you? It doesn't do anything really. It gives you a quick hit. It's like a little bump, a little.
Yep.
You get your little bump, and then you're good to go for like the next 5 minutes. But then guess what? They figured out that you need it again, and there's people that's all that like that their life is focused around that social media. I love social media because it makes me laugh a lot, but it also informs me. Like I just got a new used vehicle. I'm gonna build a new used vehicle. I'm gonna turn it into what I want to turn it into, and that's social media is great for that. I've really started. If I see something stupid on social media, I'll unfollow it or I'll just scroll past it. I don't have time for that shit.
And I've dropped less than a month on social media. When I opened back up on like 5th or 6th, I've dropped over 100 people. These stupid ass posts, and I'm like, brand delete.
Yeah, because there's no point of having it in your life. It's just you see it there, and I think we react to things and we don't realize how we're reacting. Our brain is getting that hit of dopamine, and I don't think we're actually conscious of that fact until we take that away, and then we're like, oh shit.
Well, I got on Facebook because my kids and stuff were talking about it or whatever. So I got on there and I found cousins, people I went to, Army with, in college with, or whatever that were on there, and that was kind of cool. But now I'm barely on there because you weren't in my life before I got on Facebook, and although you're there and I see you, and I don't need to like constantly know what you're doing every day. I didn't before that,
and I don't care.
I mean,
I'm happy for you.
You're happy, right? But and it's not a hateful thing. It's just more of
when I say I don't care, I'm not in a hateful way. I'm just saying I got my own life to worry about. Exactly. I don't need to worry about your life.
Right.
That's your job.
Yeah. No, and I think a lot more people can learn a lot about that. I mean, I know a lot of veterans or people who are coming out of the military are not on social media, especially if they come from the special operations community. They just pretty much not get on there and such. But it's an easy trap. It's an easy prey for you to go on there. You put some cool guy pictures on there. Next thing you know, bam, you got 500 followers, because you're a SEAL or you're a Ranger or you're a whatever, Green Beret, and then next thing you know, you need that next hit, and you keep doing it, and you're living this false life that you're portraying out there on social media that's not really who you are in reality. And I know we talk about this a lot and everything, but it was funny. We had this conversation prior to getting on air because we were talking about just some of the challenges out there. But then, like you said, there's some great stuff. When you get that message on a direct message, when somebody hits you up and really is looking for coaching or mentoring or, something that, hey, I got a question for you. You did this. I just want to know. And I love the guys who give the true advice. Like, listen, I'm not going to tell you what to do. Nobody told me what to do.
Yeah, I had to figure it out.
But you're headed in the right direction. Just keep going.
And if I get somebody that asks me either personally or sends me a message or whatever, I just try to tell them. I'm just honest with them. I said, this is what I did. This is what worked for me. I wish I wouldn't have done this. I wish I would have done that. And that's where I leave it. I said, I don't know what's best for you because I don't know you. I don't know your body. I don't know your mentality. I don't know how much heart you have, how much heart you don't have, because heart is a big thing. Like, I don't care how strong or how weak you are or tiny you are. You got some heart, that's going to carry you a long ways.
Shana Koss, Sarah Febo are the exact what you just said. The two smallest ladies, Rangers, lieutenant and captain, and both successful, in my opinion, Rangers in 3rd Battalion. And Lieutenant Febo, she's like 6 people in one. Her ability and her work ethic, and she's a physical specimen. She runs like a 33-minute 5 mile. And she does the rucks and she can do it all. And she's the meadow, and she's 5'4". She's a ranger, and she's a badass ranger in my opinion. And then Shayna Cossian, I had the privilege of working with her, and she was my XO when I first took a first sergeant job, and physical specimen, like crush you on a run, and on an obstacle course, she might just get out of the way. Like, she got this. And very intellectually smart, and just really good at their job because they have a heart as big as this room to put all that in. The odds are already stacked against them to start with, and they feel like they have something to prove and they really don't. But their heart's big enough for whatever comes their way to stay in it and keep taking it on the chin until they get where they want to go. And
oh yeah,
I've always been super impressed with both of them, and I'm super blessed to have the opportunity to be able to say I worked with both of them.
Well, I mean, you said something at the very beginning about you get whatever you put out there, you get back, and that's kind of what we're talking about too, and just in the heart, and you're a good person. You surround yourself with good people. It's going to keep you going in that right direction, and then you're going to get it back, tenfold.
Yeah. It may not be today. It may not be tomorrow. It might be 10 years from now. You never know. Yeah. It's one of those crazy things.
You're exactly right. But if I never get it back, and it's something I said to somebody, something I helped with somebody, something I listened to somebody, or anything of that matter, changed their life, saved their life, or affected them positively in any direction, and I never hear about it, I'll be okay with that, because I want to do that as the person I want to be moving forward into my future. And like I said, before, I say this all the time, but there's a lot of people that knew me before, and you would have a totally different opinion, and that's okay, but that's who I was, not who I am, and not where I'm going. So
yeah, at least they remember you.
They definitely
remember you.
And every time I co-host, I will go ahead and say, "I'm sorry."
I'm sorry. just start out with that blanket apology, like, "Hey guys, I'm sorry, I was an asshole.
My name's Jason Belford, and I'm sorry." It's a 12-step program.
No, that's it. I think people just have to understand. Sometimes we had guys that were assholes too, and all through regiment and whatnot. It's just the way it is.
Yeah.
And a lot of times that you find out they're not really such a big asshole. After a while, you get to know them a little bit, and then a lot of times they do calm down. They just kind of level off. Yeah, mature, level off. Whatever. They maybe see that it's not as effective to be that asshole. Sometimes being nice actually works. Listening to what that dude has to say works instead of just yelling and cussing at him the whole time. It's a style. Like you gotta figure out what your style is and figure out how you can better communicate, because the way he and I communicate to you is going to be completely different. So it's like we have to figure out kind of how we can all make the stars align and the moons do their thing. So
I think a true tale of a leader for me, to caveat on that what you're saying there, is style. Like, I have a style, leadership style, but you should be adaptive to
absolutely
everybody's personality, not their feelings. So when I can't align these two different personalities because they're conflicting. So hey, I'm going to move this guy over there and this guy over there because that's the different personality, and that just clashes, which is fine. So being able to adapt to that and like understand the person and understand like that's just kind of how their personality is. But their feelings we care about, and you want to like recognize them if it's valid feelings. But like I don't judge my leadership off of their feelings about me.
Yeah,
I judge my leadership off of like their personality and how I like teach, coach, and mentor them personally, because I'm not going to do it the same way to you as I would to you. And once you start learning that in a young, what I would hope in today's Army is like a young staff sergeant level probably, I feel like that'll make you a more successful leader, because that allows you to be able to put people first, because that's what you should be doing to start with, and then have good communication too.
I feel like just sitting thinking about it as you're talking, I feel like the Army, the military is kind of going back towards that. They're really focusing on the people themselves. Like I think back as a young staff sergeant, and I'm like, man, I was an idiot. Like there ain't no way I was thinking about all that shit, like what you were just talking about. And because at that time, all we're doing is running and gunning. Like we're at the height of this war thing, GWAT, whatever you want to call it. And so for us, I feel like that was not taken away from us, but we were so busy with nonstop deployments, back-to-back training and all that stuff. It's like we didn't focus on that as much as I think they are now, because there's a little bit more time to focus on the individual and like actually learn learn your platoon, learn your company, learn your battalion and whatnot. And yeah, because I was not thinking about that shit when I was at E6. No way. I'm like, where's my next deployment? I just want to make sure my guys are alive and all their SRP shit's done so I can at least deploy, and then we're good.
Yeah.
But like the guys like, what's really impressive is the guys like Sergeant Major Johnson, Sergeant Major Masters, like those guys, they were thinking that's why they are where they are, which is super impressive, by the way.
Absolutely.
I was on your side. I was like, I just need to load magazines, go that way, and squeeze triggers, and everybody needs to do it the same.
Well, and I remember Sergeant Major Masters, because like I mentioned in the previous podcast, he was a squad leader. He was that E6, and when I think back about it, he was much, much different. He engaged folks much differently, and he scuffed us up a lot.
Oh yeah,
I still have a souvenir from one of his
leader.
Oh no, exactly. And I have a ton of respect for the guy. I probably hated his guts at the time, but I still have a nice little souvenir from a very nice smoke session. And so it's like something that I'll just keep forever. Just because I look at it every now and then. I'll see it. I'll be digging through stuff. I see it and I just laugh. I just chuckle about that event that we had, and all the fun extracurricular activities and PT we got to do and everything. And so. But it was good. He was a good squad leader. So just having that mindset at that time is a testament of where he is now. I believe
huge impact in my life for sure, as a mentor and as a leader, 100%.
Well, and being younger in your early 20s, maybe typical E6 squad leaders, fairly young. If he hadn't already, if he came straight out of high school. So
one thing I like about the Army, Sergeant Major's 1 year older than me, right? And their life experiences are totally different or whatever. But in the civilian world, like you get a guy who's a couple years difference and younger, and you're his boss, and you're younger than he is, whatever. Like there can be that like conflict, like how the hell, that type of stuff. But in the Army, I think we weed that out, obviously, with the rank structure. That helps, obviously.
Yeah.
Teach you military bearing. But my level of respect for him, it has nothing to do with the rank that he wears. It's just the example that he sets every day as a person and a man and a husband and dad. Like, he's just super smart, super humble, and crushes literally everything. I have no idea how he's a Spartan still. I can't do that, but I just look up to him for that, and I could care less if he was 32 or 41. Like that's how he is, and the path that he leads, and good godly man. Like, what's not to follow behind that?
Yeah, exactly, absolutely.
Felipe, it's always good to have you back.
It's always good to be here.
Yeah, glad you came all this way, and we had a chance to talk once again. What's new with you? Anything new?
Still going to school. Still working at 4K Solutions. We got, it's been busy with all the supply chain shortages. We're going through a lot of issues and whatnot. So we have a lot of contracts out there. So we've been really busy with that. And then my daughter's going through life changes as well. She's 11, so we know what kind of changes are happening. So that's a very interesting time for me as a man, with a little girl. And so I'm learning that. Thankfully, it's only one, not 7. So God bless you, Jason. But yeah, just going to school, I'm really focusing still on the mental health,
Yeah.
like I actually got, and I'll talk to you about it more, Jason, something that you can carry forward with other guys, especially our age, but
for sure.
hormone and like a hormone therapy, testosterone replacement therapy. It's been around for a while, but my family's done it and I started on it, and it's made a huge improvement because you talk about having positive things, in your life, positive things that surround you. And so for me, this is one thing that's actually really helped, and it's really actually helped my mood quite a bit. And so I'm just trying to focus on making sure all my school's good, my work's good, my mental health, trying to, focus on my family, and whatever else is out there, it's whatever. Those are outliers, because to me, it's my family is the most important thing, because that's what I've in the past neglected. And so I want to focus on my family only. It's like my friends are going to have to understand that I'm going to hang out with my family before them, because that's my family. And so, just trying to really focus on, school work, but mainly the mental health aspect, and just trying to, just get better. Like try to learn and figure out what works best for me as far as getting better.
Better every day.
Exactly, because it's, we unfortunately, going back to the platoon sergeant thing, we had our platoon sergeant die in 2008. I don't know if that's where that comes from or not, that platoon sergeant getting schwacked on all the TFTs, because ours actually did get killed, and that was in real life. There was no respawn or anything like that. And so
very unfortunate.
it was a very crazy shit show, basically. We take contact or whatever, and that whole thing goes down and all that. And then you're left with what? Like 4 squad leaders, and we got to figure this out real quick. I was a team leader at the time, so it's something that you're expected to lead, or you're expected to know what to do, and so I want to make sure that if somebody asks me for help, or that I'm trying to help somebody, like you were talking about, that I can at least give them some good advice, or at least tell them, hey, don't do what I did.
Yeah.
Which I thankfully had the opportunity to do that actually last week with another guy that was struggling with alcoholism, because I was an alcoholic as well. And so my brother was able to talk to me to help coach this guy, or get him to basically, I don't know if he's going to rehab or anything like that, but he's, he admitted he had a problem and he wants help, and he really...
That's the first step.
Yeah, and for me, just to, I was able to help somebody indirectly, kind of in a way. I'd never talked to the guy or anything like that, but...
Right.
But to me, that makes me feel good. I don't care what anybody else thinks, but it makes me feel good, because I know where that guy is, and I know how much he's hurting.
Yeah.
I know how he feels and how lost he is. And so,
one thing I would say, because I've seen a lot of counselors. No, I'm not that messed up, but yeah, I probably am. But I've been through a lot of counselors.
hey, you made it here today, man.
Yeah.
You're good.
I've seen a lot of counselors, but one thing as a younger guy, I would, when you're going through stuff, is you go to the counselor and you're like, what do you know, right? Mm-hmm. We don't go to the counselor to know what I'm been through the same thing I'm doing.
Yeah.
We go to the counselor because they have the advice on how to handle and techniques to deal with what you're doing. So I just say, when people go to the counselor, they need to have that expectation management so they understand that.
Yeah, that's something that I needed to adjust, because I was going to the counselor thinking that they were going to tell me what all my problems are and tell me exactly how to fix them. Mm-mm. Hey, newsflash, everyone, it doesn't work that way.
That's right.
I had to figure that one out. I got so mad, and then I got over it, and I'm like, all right, I'm going here to talk to this guy, and he's listening to me, and he's giving his thoughts on it, and it actually works. It helps a lot, because it makes me think, like I sit and think about what we talked about, like. Beforehand, I'm like, no, I'm not thinking about any of that stuff. I'm actually actively engaged in trying to make sure that I'm doing the right thing, that I'm being a better person, and that's really what it is.
One of my last thing.
No, you're good.
My eyes burning. I don't know why.
Last thing for me, I promise. When I was a fighter for Dave and boxing and all that stuff, my nickname was One Shot, right? But everybody thinks that when they see my emails or whatever, they think that that's where that came from. But that isn't. They're two different things.
Different meanings behind that.
Back to Sergeant Major Johnson. But he gave a little leader professional development LPD. He gives some really good ones, but he said every morning when I get up in the morning and I turn the alarm off and my feet hit the floor, I tell myself I got one shot.
Mm-hmm. One shot at
to
this.
get it right today. And I was like, that's literally genius.
I mean,
it's
it is
so small but so big. So I was like, what? I was like, how? I got, write it down on a piece of paper or whatever. But I put it on my. I was like, you know what? I use my email at least every day. So I made my email one shot. So it's a one shot RLTW.
Well, I used to say the saying, you got you only get one chance to make a first impression. Mm-hmm. So it's pretty much the same thing. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're right.
You got one shot at today. Make it count.
Yeah,
that's right.
Make it count.
Yeah. Felipe, appreciate you coming, brother.
I love being here.
Yeah,
loved it.
I'm glad you do.
No, I know it's great. I love talking to you guys. It's always a good experience, and listening to the show as well, man. It's great episodes, great information, and the variety is what I like. It's not, you guys aren't like specifically going after a certain demographic or a certain, hey, we only want door kickers, or I only want aviators, or I only want Navy guys. It's whoever. We don't care, and so that I really enjoy that, and so just. Hearing these stories, it helps me because I get to reflect on my life and hear a story like Jason talking about. All he thinks about is being, I'm going to be better today. I'm going to be better today. How many people are thinking like that? Most people are worried about the dumbass shit that's on social media who didn't like my post. Like,
people worry about being a hypocrite. Like, well, how you better every day? I was like, well, I mean, if I fuck it up today, I'll be better tomorrow.
Yeah, exactly.
Listen to the damn stand.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, and that's the thing. It's just. People like Jason having that effect on other people out there. Like, some people may think it's the dumbest thing in the world. Better every day, better. It's like, okay, well, if you sat and actually thought about it, and then you might actually want to become better every day, and then 5 years later, he's like, well, I'm better every day, and because he finally sees it, and we've all done that. We're like, put the foot in the mouth and be like, yeah, 2 years ago I said this was dumb as shit, and then you grow up and you mature a little bit. It may have only taken 2 years, and you're like, yeah, I was wrong.
Yeah, that's right.
It happens. It sucks. It tastes very bitter, but it's a learning experience. So, but no, and just to glean that from, a podcast, I think is powerful. I think it's good.
No, I appreciate that. We talked about it off air and stuff, how much I appreciate that kind of feedback, because it's a lot of what we wanted to do the show for.
Absolutely.
And to give back.
Yeah.
So, but I also, at the same token, appreciate you coming on here, sharing your stories, because they're doing the same thing of what you're listening to and helping you.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
I appreciate that.
That's great.
No, loved it. Really enjoyed being here. Thankful for the opportunity.
You bet.
Love the conversation.
Yeah, right.